And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Gmat Club's YouTube Debriefs. My name is Evan. For those of you who don't know me by that name, most of you should at this point. In fact, I'll be very, 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 very disappointed if you don't know me by that name by this point. You hopefully know me by my username on Gmat Club, Nightblade354, Nightblade with an N, not a K. Tired of going over this with you folks. Message me with an N, not a K. You message somebody with a K. I actually don't think that user exists. Nightblade with an N. So, folks, today we have a really special debrief. This is one of the most accomplished people that I have ever had the pleasure to read about, which is why it is such a gift that she has joined us here today. She studied for the GRE, so that's why it's a little bit different in that respect, but she probably is the most motivational story I have ever heard. And just because we're in the spirit of changing things up and making things just a little more unique, instead of you asking your questions in the side chat here, which for those of you who are avid viewers of our show, you know we have you post your questions and then we get them in the end. I'm going to post our StreamYard link. This will allow you to join us on stream. Now you'll need my permission. I'll have to bring you on when you want to answer or ask your question, but this will allow you to ask your question directly to Ankita. So we're going to experiment with this. If it goes well, we'll continue in the future. If those of you watching screw it up and it's an unmitigated disaster, good job. It's all on you that we're never doing this again. But enough about me rambling here. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ankita to our live stream. She's a pleasure and a delight. And frankly, I couldn't be happier to have her on. Ankita, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Evan.
Before we jump into all the wonderful questions that I have for you, and to really give our users a sense of the incredible story that you have going for you here, let's hear a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, some things that you want our users to know. And again, we are going to hit on a lot of your background. So anything that you feel is pertinent for them to know, now would be the time to share it.
So, hi guys, my name is Ankita Shrivastava. I'm 28 years old. At the age of 19, I donated my liver to my mother, so I'm a liver donor. Post which I lost her, and I started my own business, which is in the media and entertainment space. I created a brand that's called Purple Turtle, which is in my background. And at the moment, I have 14 preschool franchisees. So we are in the franchising business. So we started Purple Turtle preschools. Then we're in the licensing business, so a lot of bags, water bottles, tiffins, and whatever you see with a character. And then we decided to create a TV show. So we got the ex-president of Disney from Europe, and we created a TV show which is on Discovery Kids in Middle East and Northern Africa. That's the business side of it. So everything related to preschool education. Post which there are these World Transplant Games, which are organized by the Olympics Association. I have been a national swimmer, a national squash player, basketball, volleyball. So I come with that background. And eventually I participated in the World Transplant Games. And I won 2 golds and 1 silver for India. My 2 golds, which were in long jump and shot put, also became world records. So at this moment, I'm majorly into sports, organ donation, and my business. And that's how I decided that we are ready. We have exports in around 25 countries. So the major establishment in our business comes from US. So I decided that I have to shift my base. And that's when the thought of MBA came in, and I have been trying for so long, which you'll hear over the conversation. And that's how I got a 335, and then I got an admit with Columbia and then Wharton. I had a hindsight for Stanford, but it did not happen. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my story.
See, folks, for those of you who thought, and by the way, you had the initial reaction that I did when I first read Ankita's debrief. Now, for those of you who watch this show fairly frequently, you know and understand that I don't read debriefs. And I do that one part out of laziness, but 9 parts out of I want to come in blind. I want to be able to ask questions that our users would ask, because 90% of them aren't going to read your debrief. That's just the way it is. We're all lazy in some capacity, and we don't necessarily want to read. We want to have it spoon fed to us. So I want to come in with that same mindset and hope to tease out all the information that maybe I would assume having read a debrief. I violated that rule that I have of not reading the debrief for you, Ankita. And I have to say it was, again, well worth it. But more importantly, I had the same reaction. Sheesh, geez. We're dealing with someone who is well accomplished, way out of the norm, and more importantly, way more accomplished than me. And now we get a lot of those on here, but not to the same extent that you are. So our users are having a similar reaction. Before we hear all about your path, why you wanted an MBA, how you were able to overcome all these difficulties, how you're able to found these successful companies, and why a certain school apparently was so dim-witted that they decided that you somehow weren't worth an admission to their program, which, by the way, is baffling to me. Like, I'm speechless. I really am. Every school should have given you a scholarship of some kind, especially with your GRE score. So before we get into all that, I want to talk to our users a little bit about the GRE. The GRE is an alternative test that the business schools and frankly most grad schools accept. Now, it is viewed a different way, obviously, than the GRE. Than the Gmat. Oh goodness, I'm already tripping over myself. See, this is what happens when you wake up early and you do these debriefs and you don't have coffee. Your mind just goes 10 different places. You can't keep things straight. But the GRE, I guess what you folks should know, is an alternative test. So if you want to take a test and the Gmat just isn't clicking for you, maybe the GRE will. But Ankita, do you want to tell our users a little bit about the GRE, sort of the components to it, what you went through, how you studied for it, the time commitments? What was that process like studying for the GRE? In fact, actually, I'd like to start. Why did you choose the GRE over the Gmat?
So, first of all, the first disclaimer is that I wasn't the brightest, and it's very easy for an IITian from India to get into an IVD. So I knew that there's a barrier that I have to crack because I'm not the smartest, but I'm the most hardworking that I can proudly talk about. So
I was about to say, but a 335 is in the 98th percentile, FYI. For those of you who are wondering, this is a 320 is considered, good. A 335 is considered beyond excellent. So let's just to frame it. But please continue.
But even if I'll share my story, you'll be very surprised that none of the colleges came to know that I got a 335 because I had an initial of 328, etc., a lot of scores. And those were the ones that got me submitted and admitted to the college. But out of my sheer curiosity of where I could stand, I did attempt and got a 335, but no college knows about it. And I did try to tell Stanford, but it was too late. That aside, I think why I chose GRE is majorly because I thought and I talked to a lot of people and I thought that it's a little towards the literature side and my English was stronger between English and maths. And it might differ for each and every person, but I gave sample exams with GMAT and GRE and I had a hindsight for GRE and that's why I chose it. How the exam goes, it's basically you have to write two essays which are fairly simpler and it's about analytical writing, and I think a lot of people just steam through it. Why I like it, one more very important step is because analytical writing of that 1 hour actually makes you pace out towards the exam. So whatever you're doing, so every business person is looking to go into a business school, so you have to really phase yourself out in this exam scenario because you've lost touch for a couple of years, right? So that helped me to come in that zone. And then I used to prepare for, I used to give my quant and my literature stuff. And I did attempt it 3, 4 times. So that's where I am. But what I can proudly say is once I sticked to GRE, then I didn't keep switching back because it's different for everybody. Some people will prefer GMAT, whatever you decide, but you got to stick to it. If you keep shuffling, then you're as confused as it can get. So I sticked to the GRE and then I worked very hard, very hard. There's no escaping it that I wasn't the brightest. And hence, I had to work for like, I studied for 8 hours a day and for a very, very long time to crack that because I had to move out anyhow. Um, yeah, so that's that.
She's also very modest, folks. So that is just an added benefit to having such a lovely human being on with us today. If I can add a little bit clarity before I ask the next question, actually about the GRE, folks, for those of you who are watching, one, Ankita made a fantastic point. Try multiple tests. Use the one that speaks to you most. Now, schools do see GMAT and GRE differently, but they accept both, meaning you're fine using one or the other. So make sure you find the test that works best for you. The second thing is a GRE has two components. It has a quant side and a verbal side, very similar to the GMAT. The quant mirrors the quant section on the GMAT, except some of the questions are asked differently. It's problem solving, but instead of DS, it's a different variation of that. And the verbal side is reading comp, similar to GMAT, but then it's fill in the blank and choosing words that fit in based on the critical reasoning and vocabulary component to it. So that's what the GRE is. And then there's the AWA that comes with it, as Ankita said. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe pick up a GRE book, although I would encourage it. We are GMAT Club, GMAT.
Yes.
Yay, good stuff. So that is the difference between GMAT and GRE. Find which one works best for you and attack it, but don't get cold feet and then start flip-flopping. Don't vacillate between the two. Pick one, commit to it, get the best score you can. Now, Ankita, you said you were studying 8 hours a day.
Yep.
When was this? Just after you graduated, or was this while you were working? Was this while you were founding your companies? Was this while your mother was sick? When were you studying 8 hours a day for this exam?
So MBA came to me twice in life. First, I got an opportunity after graduation, but everybody, as we've heard, that Ivy Leagues would prefer that you have some work ex. Moreover, Ivy League or not, an MBA makes more sense when you have some work experience behind you, so you understand classes a little better. Hence, I did have 4 years of work ex. That's when I decided that this is the right time to start. So I was working. I have a startup which needs a lot of time, dedication. So it was a crazy schedule. I used to basically, it's COVID times, right? So 10:30 my meetings would start. They would end at 6:30, and at 7 my consultant in US would be awake because it's those US hours, US and Indian times. And then when she would let me go, then at night I would start studying and I would study all night and then sleep for 4 5 hours. And then again, I did that for months because, again, just a disclaimer that I am maybe some people can crack it in a month or I don't know, but it took me a little time. I attempted it first and I didn't score as well. So I kept trying, but I was utter sure that if I'm going, I'm going to go to the best. I will not go just like that. So yeah, I literally worked very hard, and that's no escaping. I can't give a shortcut to that. But I spent hours at night and then work at day, and then those consultant timings for essays, So started with the third round and then the first round, and I am an expert at this now. I've done too many applications and too many exams. I think I should become a consultant.
I mean, you have the talent for it, clearly. But let me ask, you were working, no, startups are incredibly difficult. So you're probably working 12, 14 hours a day.
Absolutely.
You're then studying 6 to 8 hours a day on average. If my math is correct here, we're pushing 20 hours, give or take.
And absolutely. I was sleeping for 3 4 hours a day. Absolutely.
So then let me ask, so you're on 3 4 hours of sleep for a couple of months minimum. How were you able to keep yourself controlled? How are you keeping yourself stable, focused, motivated? Because we've had students on here who, much like me, they have full-time jobs. They've tried studying, or they did study, and once they started pushing 16-hour days, after a couple of months, they started to really, really feel it to the point where it became almost untenable and things had to adjust for them. And we've had those conversations on here live. You're doing more than that. You're doing 20 hours a week. I'm sorry, 20 hours a day. Jesus.
A day. Yeah.
I need my assistant to bring me coffee wherever they are. How were you able to survive? How were you able to keep going? Tell us about that.
So this is absolutely my favorite question. I think if you want to take a switch in your career, there has to be a purpose behind it. You just can't go haywire and expect an Ivy League to send you an admit. I think there has to be a strong purpose, and that's what essays talk about, etc. But for me, I had my mom, and I lost her even before I entered college. So that was pretty young, and we used to always talk about going to US, shifting to US, and she would come with me for my MBA. Pretty unpractical, but we had our plans. It didn't work out, and it was behind my thoughts all the time that I would pursue an MBA over time. Then things got difficult in the city I was. To scale the business to the expense that I think there's a possibility. We were exporting to 25 countries, but in very little numbers. To expand it, we had to switch bases, and you just can't go. It would be too expensive, and I won't get the resources, the network, everything that an MBA actually provides. And I thought this is the right stage of time. And I had two choices. Either I could just get up and go without any network, without anything, and start from scratch, rent an apartment, and start meeting anybody on the road. That's pretty difficult a road to take. Second option is that you respectfully study hard, work hard, go to a respective college, create a network, and then expand your business. That seemed more streamlined. And then I had a solid purpose behind my mind that I had to fulfill her wishes, my dreams. And I don't know, a lot of people, I know, a lot of my friends who've just been to Harvard, Stanford, like that. And that's great. That's great for them. Uh, to me, it was a very important step in life, a very important switch, uh, and I took it very seriously. I know people joke about it and do it very casually, but a little embarrassed that I am. But I had to literally work very hard, and I took it as my life's purpose that I'm going to switch, and I'm going to switch with an Ivy League, and I'm going to scale my business. And yeah, that's that. I had to I come from a very small city, and I have a lot of people and thoughts and processes, and I don't have parents, so it's all on me, on what I can achieve, and a lot of eyes on me. So I just decided that let's bang, let's do something big. And that's how this happened.
So I want to elaborate on that a little bit. But before I do, I actually want to hear about I want to shift back to the GRE experience, because you said you've claimed, which I don't believe, you've claimed that you're not the smartest person out there, but you are the hardest working. I'll believe the hardest working. I won't believe that you're not intelligent. There's no way on earth, from everything you've pitched me, that you are not a bright human being. And
I'm extremely bright, but those mathematicians that exist on the Wall Street, I'm not as smart in maths, which they required in a GRE. But I can stand by it that I have worked the hardest to gain this score. So yeah.
And I don't doubt that. Working 20
Thank
hours
you.
a day. I mean, you've lapped me, and I, for the last 8 months, have been doing some pretty serious time. So you've lapped me in that department, which I find unfathomable, because there were points where I was getting to my breaking point and said, this is just untenable and can't continue. The GRE, because again, our users, they don't know what the GRE is necessarily. We talked about it a little bit. I want to hear about what resources you used. I want to hear how you were studying on a daily basis. What were you doing during those 8 hours? And how were you improving? So let's start there. Let's start from the basics of, you decided to take the GRE. What'd you do next? And how are you going to improve? How are you studying? Well, let's hear about that, just so in case one of our users does want to take the GRE, they have at least some starting point with somebody who obviously had an incredible amount of success.
So 3, 4 things that I learned over time. how to crack GRE, because every exam you have to learn, it's a process, and an exam has a pattern. So this exam is a pretty quick exam. So you have 1.5 minutes for each question. So you gotta think very fast. And how that can happen is for verbal. One, I am very good at verbal, so I can suggest with verbal that you have to be wholesome there when you're reading it, because if you're not there, you'll have to read it twice. By the time you read it twice, your time is gone because you had 1.5 minute for the question. So I practiced reading like, I cannot even tell it in numbers, but I read so many essays and I would read them on a daily basis, and just concentrating on what it's saying. It's a pretty long essay, so you gotta keep when you come in a flow. I sincerely would suggest everybody, if you've decided on taking a GRE, you block your date and then you start studying. If you don't have a date, whatever gets scheduled gets done, because otherwise you will lose touch on the reading, on the concentration part, because it's a lot of concentration. I wouldn't like to believe that nobody knows that simple passage or that basic in English, but doing it in 1.5 minutes is the crack. So I did a lot of reading. That's how I help myself. I am a little into physical books because when you touch and hold, it is a different feeling. So I used Magoosh, I was using Gmat resources, I used all of them, and I was using physical books where I was actually literally writing them down. So verbal, only way to crack it is that you read very fast, because another thing that people think that your vocab has to be very strong because GRE's verbal has a very strong vocabulary. But I would really like to tell a crack here: when you keep reading and your reading is very fast and you're there at that moment reading that essay, you will, even if you don't know the word, you'll know the feeling of the writer. You'll know that he's writing it in anger or persuasion or humor. So you'll know the essence of that essay. So when a question comes for that word, you don't know that word, but you know the feeling of that sentence. So the answer gets pretty easier. That's like a crack that I realized over time. With quant, I had to literally solve, and I have and it is also not a descriptive maths that you would presume, like differentiation or integration. They are not expecting you to keep solving things. That's not their purpose. They are trying to see your analytical brain, how fast you can work with numbers. So there's always a crack to a solution. At least my first attempt, I can tell you, it was a havoc because I was trying to solve everything with every step. That's not the purpose of GRE. GRE is basically trying to find out that how good you are at numbers and trying to manipulate them to get an answer. So you don't need a calculator, you don't need a descriptive answer to start solving. Just try to find a crack, and that will also come with flow. So just solving those sample papers on GRE, as well as a lot of them are online available. If you want to spend money anywhere, then spend it on those sample papers. You will have a flow. Also, another suggestion that you might take or not, if there's a teacher that you know, they will tell you the knacks, they will tell you the tits and bits that will help you crack, because that same, like, for example, it's been a while that I give my GRE, but there was a crack that you start reading the first line and the last line with those essays, because 1.5 minutes go like this. So these are little cracks, and that will only come with practice, and that have like literally helped me in the process. So I would like to suggest the same.
So let me
Sorry.
follow up with one additional question about the GRE, which is how many questions were you doing during each study period? Because we have GMAT students who they'll do 10 quant and they'll do 10 verbal, or they'll do 20 quant one day and 15 verbal the next day. Were you mixing and matching? Were you doing, or were you focusing one day on one day on another? Or were you just saying, you know what, I'm weak in math, but I know I'm good verbal. I'm just going to pound quant day in and day out, and I'm going to do 50 questions, and hopefully that gets me there.
Yeah, so without spending too much money, if you try those free sample papers, you'll realize what you're good at. And you have an inside intuition also what you're good at. So I knew that my verbal is strong. And no, it doesn't mean that I didn't practice it, because it is different. You might be very good at verbal in your 10th and 12th. Doesn't mean you're good at the GRE verbal. So you gotta actually solve questions and see where you stand. In case you are doing well, that's great. I had to actually concentrate on point to reach somewhere, some designated place. So solve a lot of sample papers. What I was doing, I literally was only doing questions, because what I understood after giving 2 3 sample papers, that it's not something that we don't know. It's all that English and all that maths is something that you've studied. So you don't want to go in the deep history of it. You have to solve questions to understand how to solve them. There's a crack in each answer, and that can't happen if you start opening your 10th class maths. That won't help. You'll have to keep solving questions. And I was doing 3 sample papers a day, and it takes a lot of time because it's bloody 3 hours and then 3 hours again. And when you are on a bad day, you are just not able to concentrate. But sample papers, solving questions, I was not getting in the inside. I literally did my verbal in a week, like studying part of it. I did it in a week. After that, I for months I have just solved questions, and I think that has really helped.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Just wanted to make sure that our users, if and when they view this and they're saying, ooh, GRE, maybe this is something I want to do, at least this gives you some idea. Pattern solving, similar to Gmat, at least quantitatively, you solve for patterns, see the number of patterns, and be able to apply those. And Keto, by the way, so we are an agenda-free show. Now, what does that mean? It means that, yes, while we have sponsors on the forum, when you come on here, when you're in my house, you can bash anybody you want. We've bashed sponsors routinely on here, and frankly, I love it, because what we want to get out of these shows, aside from inspiration and motivation and giving some clarity, is to give students some strong resources. Now, you mentioned Magoosh. I mean, be honest. I mean, would you recommend Magoosh to a student who's sitting there watching this video one day and saying, you know what? Maybe I give the GRE a try. She did well. Is Magoosh, in your opinion, a worthwhile partnership to make? Should you invest money in Magoosh as a prep resource?
Yeah, absolutely. It worked for me. It's a personal suggestion, but for me, it was budget friendly, and it had those videos. You could watch them anytime, so I had that resource. Magoosh, or for that sake, you bring anything on board. Your personal commitment is what will take you far. Everybody is talking the same thing, so you can go on any website and it's the same content. But when there are videos and they tell you that you can watch it anytime, you don't watch it anytime, you know. So you got to be committed to go and watch them repeatedly, and that's the crack. But frankly, for me, I really like those resources, and I actually used and I watched all the videos, and it was great for me.
That's awesome. All right. So there you go, folks. So Magoosh, apparently for GRE, they do well. I've
Not for
heard I've heard mixed things from them about the Gmat. So I've heard people say they love it. I've heard others say not so much, but either way.
I did a lot of GRE prep and all of those stuff also. I did, yeah. I am a pro at this. I have actually tried every software, every resource. ETS was obviously it's a go-to thing. GRE Edge, I've tried. GRE Edge has so many amazing answers that I literally used it a lot of times. So yeah.
There we go. All right. So now I sort of want to bring us back to why we're here in the first place, which is to hear about your motivational story. And before I do that, folks, Ankita's name keeps changing every now and again because we've been editing it. First, it was just her name. Then we added GRE 335 to it. Then we added Wharton and CBS admit. You'll notice my name hasn't changed this session. I am the Crown Prince. So BB, who's the founder and owner of Gmat Club, if he's for some reason, he falls out a window or there's a bathtub electrocution, don't come crying. No, it's not me. I promise. Just because I'm the heir to Gmat Club doesn't mean that, and just because I'm the next one up doesn't mean that I was the one who pushed him out the window. And a GRE word I think is defenstrate. Is that to throw out a window? I think it is.
maybe.
Regardless, I'm trying to stretch you with my GRE knowledge. Ankita,
Those
I want
five
to take
marks
us.
that I lost.
I'm sorry.
Those 5 marks that I lost.
I want to take us back now to the beginning. And so, for those of you who are watching, yes, we're done talking about the GRE and her experience. I want to now hear about the motivational side of it. And I sort of want to take you back to day one of your early days. I want to hear I was born in a log cabin. That may be going a little too far back. But I want to hear about when you decided, I believe it was at an early age, I want an MBA. I want to hear about sort of the trigger that started that, and then how you moved through from your early days to through undergrad, keeping the MBA in mind, studying really hard while co-founding these companies. I want to hear all about that experience. Soup to nuts, A to Z. Give us the whole thing.
So it's a pretty interesting story. I basically, when I was in my seventh class, my mom was diagnosed of liver cirrhosis. So liver cirrhosis, as everybody knows, uh, is a chronic disease, and you eventually have to go through a transplant. For a transplant, you need a donor, and the donor was me, and I had to turn 18. I was in seventh class at that time. So we eventually waited for me to turn 18. When I was 18, I donated my liver to her, but she wasn't keeping well for months. She was in coma, and we would keep talking. Like, I am not even kidding. I'm not trying to create a story. We were talking about shifting to the US, and we didn't know too many colleges, and I was too young. I was in seventh class, just imagine. So the name I knew was Stanford, and I said, we will go to Stanford and you can come with me, and for undergrad. So no GRE, no MBA, for undergrad. And
Okay.
that was that. And then when I passed my 12th and I turned 18, she really fell sick. She wasn't keeping well. So forget Stanford. I wasn't even moving from my hometown. So I got into Delhi University, which is one of the prime universities in India, but I still shifted to my
Mm-hmm.
hometown because we had to go through the liver transplant. And then she couldn't make it. The transplant happened and she couldn't make it. So it was at the back of my mind that, and even whatever has happened, I have whatever I've reached, but I cannot tell you. You've read The Secret? The Secret, there's a book called The Secret. So it's basically about, just read it, my recommendation. So it's about
Okay.
thinking about whatever you want in life, and the entire world basically conceptualizing and coming together to make that dream come true. And for me, it was Stanford. And I'm not even kidding. Like, if I could show you, my wallpaper is also Stanford. And I had believed myself to be in that place. Like, anybody who's actually an undergrad or a postgrad there wouldn't know the place as well as I did. Like, virtual tours, I would watch like 8 times a day, you know. So out of those 20 hours, I was spending hours watching Stanford's virtual tour. So I had this hindsight for it. And yes, as much as I could live, breathe a dream, it was to go to Stanford. I still am not in terms with how I didn't make it. And as things turned out, I had to eventually stay in my hometown, do my undergrad in Bhopal. We went to Delhi to get the transplant done. My mom passed away when I was in my first year of college undergrad. Eventually, my father also remarried and separated from us. So I and my grandfather also passed away. In India, everybody lives together. So I and my grandmother at this moment as well, we live together. And to make ends meet, I had my college fees and everything just coming on me when I was in my first year. So I joined a company, which was a printing and publishing firm. That's where I learned about business. And we eventually decided that we'll create, and we were licensees for Barbie, Benton, Marvel Heroes, Spider-Man, Superman. So I gained that experience there. And we eventually decided, why not create our own brand? So I created this character called Purple Turtle. It's in the preschool category. We started exports, and the first license we sold was in US. We've done 25 countries till now. We plan to expand further. to make the brand famous, I eventually decided that it should be on TV. So for 4 years, I kept going to this Kid Screen, MIPCOM, MIP TV, all these TV shows that keep happening in UK and US, but never for studies. So just to establish this company of mine. And then, as God was kind enough, after 4 years, the ex-president of Disney Europe came on board. He became our co-producer, and we launched this TV show, which is now on Discovery Kids in Middle East and Northern Africa, and it was broadcasted 10 times a day.
And by the
So,
way, this was all taking place while you were in your undergrad, correct?
yes, undergrad, and then I have more experience, a couple of more years when I've worked after my undergrad as well for the
After you
company.
graduated. Yep.
Yes. So basically, for everybody's disclaimer, I didn't go to college in my undergrad because all the time I was working for my company and trying to scale the company. And we started the franchising business. We started Purple Turtle preschools, and everything went well until it was kind of a there was a lot of it was a family business. There were splits, and uh, I had lost my parents, so I had no backup, and I eventually decided that I have to do something by myself. Not that I haven't done everything by myself, but just at a bigger scale. And that thought of Stanford, I cannot tell you in words how crazy I was to be a part of that college. So I started my whole GRE thing with that uh, ambition to be in that college. So that has to be pretty clear. Wherever I've landed, I'm very happy. Just the fact that I had a purpose, I had a defined destination where I want to be, and that really helps. That keeps you motivated because you can lose this motivation any point of time. One bad GRE score, rejections in applications, you name it. I've had all of them. But you have to have some ambition and goal that is keeping you motivated. And maybe that was Stanford to me. And they really helped by rejecting me and getting me in a better place. So I started this during COVID. COVID was the most helpful thing that could have happened to me. I don't know how people have spent their time, but I kept telling people that this is the if this is the time that you have, if you want to make a career switch, this is the time because you can work from home, you can work as hard, and then you basically save on transport and traveling and a lot of things, right? We were not traveling during COVID. So I decided that this is I will never get this time in my life, and I started studying so much that and then I got my scores and I realized it's not enough. So I started
What
and
was
then
that first score?
a 324.
Which I believe is Stanford's average, is it not, or is it slightly below?
Um, it is, but it's on the lower side. So I said maybe because so first thing first, that mine is a very non-traditional profile because usually Ivy Leagues prefer somebody from an elite undergrad, and then in a McKinsey or a Google or an Amazon you work for 2 3 years, and then you come to an Ivy League. That's the traditional profile. Now here comes Ankita, who hasn't even gone to college, like literally not gone to college. I scored very well, but my undergrads I had a great score, but I didn't really go to college. And then hasn't gone to a Google or a McKinsey or etc. Has her company which is establishing. It hasn't established yet, and now I want to be in the Ivy League. So it's a very non-traditional profile. And with my initial scores, it was difficult for the college to take that decision. And I didn't know anybody in Stanford, so it was not like an alumni was giving me a recommendation or anything like that. So a lot of mess on those parts. Then we started the application process. So I decided that I'm going to only apply to the top 10. If that happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I have a business and I would like to continue with that and pursue that. That was my decision. All of everybody that I contacted Wharton alumni, I contacted people in Harvard, wherever I knew, whoever, I would keep talking to them, and everybody would tell me that the only college that would risk to take my profile because it has sports, which we have not discussed in the story, sports, organ donation, my business, Stanford would make the perfect fit because Stanford has kids who are co-curricularly very strong, independent, entrepreneurs, and then my sports bit. So I said, great, this is destiny meeting and the secret is going to be fulfilled. So I was all set. And then I got an interview. First time I apply and I get an interview to Stanford, and believe me, that had been, it still is the happiest day of my life. I was shouting on the road, literally. I was just too happy that I made it. And then I got an interviewer in India who turned out to be not as nice, uh, kept questioning me about my revenues, which were obviously not as streamlined as hers because she had a solid backup and she was too big. She was too big. I was too small for her, obviously. So the interview went bad. I just believed and prayed that they would understand the application, so I didn't tell them. After the results came, I was broken in pieces, and then I told them that that happened. But obviously, as everybody must have heard, they don't change decisions, so they won't. And then so I said, no, this can't be it, because your secret of life and your purpose has been to be to stand for. So I said, we are not going this year. So I got selected to Columbia, and I still decided we are not going this year. We'll apply next year, and we will go to the college that I'm meant to be. So I applied next year as well. And to God's mean kind, I didn't even get an interview. So that was that. And then I shared my scores, nothing happened. But thankfully, I was waitlisted for Wharton uh, last year. And then I got selected in Columbia, but I didn't go that year because I had to eventually go to Stanford. That was the thought, right? And I said, nothing can come in between me and Stanford. So next year, then Warden was kind enough to understand my persistence. So Wharton took me, they gave me scholarship, and in round one, I cracked it. So been a very simple story.
Well, and so there's obviously a lot of emotion attached to that.
Yes.
When you have your heart set on your dream and you're
Yes.
willing to do everything in your power to get there, and you
Can you believe it?
feel
That at this moment also I can't believe that I've not made it. Like I know I've not made it, but I just can't come in terms with it. And it's just disappointing. They don't change decisions and they won't for anybody, but it is what it is.
if I were Stanford, I'd fire the adcom who said thanks but no thanks. And I'm not saying that to be kind, nor am I saying that to come off as a good person here.
You're
And
fine.
but for anyone who watches these shows, you know I am as candid and honest as you're gonna get.
Okay, guys, can you please tag the Stanford MBA admissions and ask them
And if
to
they want to have a call with me, happy to do it.
please.
I've taken calls one-on-one with plenty of adcoms in the past. Most of them have been very kind, but if Stanford wants to come on our show, on GMAT Club show, and explain why you turned down what is probably one of the single most qualified women I've ever seen in my entire life, who has a story that literally cannot be beat, I'd be happy to have that conversation with you. If you want to do it privately and you want to have just a phone call, I'm happy to do that too. Call me. Reach out to me on GMAT Club. Reach out to our publicist. Talk to me. Because right now it is unfathomable and unbelievable that you would turn down somebody with this type of story and these types of qualifications.
Even I literally believe in miracles, and I shouldn't be at this podium saying this, but I have seen miracles happen. And when my transplant happened, I was in coma for 11 minutes. I've come out of that. Uh, when the World Transplant Games happened, uh, they happened in Newcastle in UK. It's a very interesting story. I'll just take 2 minutes.
Yeah, no. This is your session. Like, people aren't here to hear me; they're here to hear you. This is your time. Go with it. Run with it. Tell us about your sporting accolades and accomplishments.
And why I want to share that also I'll tell you. So basically, we are in this 200 countries participate in the World Transplant Games. There are thousands of people, and India is underrepresented. Okay, we had only 14 people, no coach, and we were very raw. But again, nobody can stand the hard work that I did for those games. So before this GRE thing happened, it was the World Transform Games that was my concentration for life. And I was literally working. And how I was working, I was getting up at 5 o'clock till 5 to 10. I was practicing. At 10:30, I would just change there and reach my office. Till 8, I was in office, and 8, I would again go back to the academy, and I would practice till midnight. And at midnight, I have two families that I have to manage, so I would go to the other family, meet all the elderly and all. And I was coming back home at around 2, 3 in the night. So that was my schedule. It was not for months; it was for years. And when I reached there, I realized I have no standing because there are 200 countries, so many participants, each and every person has one coach. The entire country didn't have a coach, and there every person had a coach. So I knew that I have come to this magical world where I don't stand a chance. Then it is a game of minds. I was participating in 4 events. In marathon, I didn't make it. It was on the first day, and it was 7 days event. So in the first day, I didn't make it, and I was under the sand. So I decided I will stay in my room. I'm not getting out. I don't want to. They had all these cultural events and parties going on. I'm not going anywhere. I just wanted to stay and go back home because I was truly embarrassed, and I thought I had worked so hard that a medal is coming anyhow. And I was literally happy getting a bronze also. I just had to get a medal for the country and come back because my father here was expecting me to get something. So after that, on the last 2 days, I had all my three events. Okay. And my first event was the 100 meters, where at the last millisecond, a UK lady went ahead and won the gold, and I won a silver. But you cannot imagine how our brains work, which I saw that time. I had to perpetually win a bronze, right? And I had won a silver. So I was very happy. I was done. I was ready to go back home. But that lady understood that she had won at the last millisecond, and she got petrified, and she couldn't take that pressure. And the next day, I had the long jump and the short put. The long jump, I'm just explaining for the viewers. The
Yeah,
long
yeah.
jump has 6 rounds. So three qualifiers and three finals. So my first jump, which was a qualifier, that was the world record. And literally at that stadium, where at that stadium there's thousands of people, and the lady who was again there obviously for the long jump, her name was Jenny Kerry. Hi Jenny. She left
Hi,
the stadium.
Jenny.
She left the stadium because she couldn't take the pressure, and she couldn't understand how and I was pretty chilled because I had to get a bronze, remember. And I won the gold. I broke the world record, and then I had the shot put at the same day, and I won a gold, the second gold, and broke the world record. And I just realized that how our brains work, and how important it is to be in the moment, how important it is to believe. Like, I literally believed that I'm going to win, and I did. I literally believed that I'm going to be a part of Stanford. It didn't happen, but I'm very happy where I made it. Wharton will kill me for saying all this. But hi guys, I'm coming to Philly. See you guys there. So yeah, that's my story.
I mean, by the way, Wharton is one of the best business schools in the world. There's
It
no
is.
denying it. Wharton is a fantastic program. You had your heart set on one program,
Yes.
you got into another, and they obviously saw in you, as did Columbia, what
Yes.
Stanford should have seen in you. What any person who doesn't have cataracts covering their eyes, or what any sane, normal, can actually see, has sight, legally speaking, person can see, which is that you probably should have gone to Stanford. You probably should have gotten into Stanford. You have one of the most incredible stories, again, I've ever read. You're one of the most incredible people I've ever spoken to. You're one of the most qualified people I've ever spoken to. And this is coming from somebody, our GMAT. Are you familiar with GMAT Club? I mean, you're talking with us on our YouTube. Are you familiar with us by any chance?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I know about Gmat Club. And
did you know that we have 1.3 million users?
No.
We have 1.3 million people on that forum. By the way, love the forum. go to our forum. Use our forum. If anyone doesn't know what GMAT Club is, go. It's 100% free. Use us. Use us. Like, actually use us. Not just like use us, but like take advantage of us is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yep.
1.3 million people. I can't think of anybody who outmatches you or has just better accolades, a better story, better anything, really. I mean, it is truly an incredible story.
I also believe in one thing, that everybody has a story and everybody's story is unique. And if you forget your story, if you listen to the other person's story with your 100% heart, you'll realize for them it's the most difficult, because by nature we humans want to make ourselves the hero, and there has to be some villain in the story and some struggles, and we have overpowered all struggles and reached here. So that's the story crisp of everybody's life. So I think I have shared it in a certain way. If you hear somebody else's story, that's more difficult. We've been very, very privileged to be just here, having all the resources to do what I have done. People are not as fortunate. So I think I'm truly blessed in a lot of ways.
You're a survivor. There's no other way to put it. And again, if Stanford does take issue with this video, which will get thousands upon thousands upon thousands of views, I will make sure of that. I'll make sure we post it on our Instagram. I'll make sure it gets posted on our YouTube. It is prominently displayed. I'll make sure that we keep it on our Facebook. I will make sure this gets thousands upon thousands of views. If anyone from Stanford takes issue with what I am doing here, reach out to me. I respond to every message I get on the forum, and I will make sure to respond to your messages. And to anyone who's messaging me on my phone right now telling me to stop, no, this needs to be said. And I'm not kidding. I actually am getting messages by people who are saying maybe we tone it down a little bit. No, that is a defeatist attitude. This needs to be heard. That said, for anyone who wants to ask Ankita a question, hit that link. You'll be brought to our StreamYard and you'll be able to ask her in person live on our session. And we have our first person. Ankita, are you ready for a question from our audience?
Absolutely ready.
All right. Again, this is a trial, folks. We've never done this before. Let's see how this goes. Let's tread lightly here. All right, Hardik, you are officially on with GMAT Club. Welcome, buddy. Please ask your question to Ankita.
Hi, Hardik.
Hi, Ankita.
Hi, Hardik. How are you?
First of all, congratulations for getting into Wharton.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, your story is really a powerful, losing your mother at such a teenager and then building a business. I would like to ask, how was your interview and what questions did they ask from your side?
Awesome. So I have done 4 or 5 interviews, so I can share a lot of feedback on that. Stanford was pretty much not as I expected, and I've mentioned it before. So she kind of questioned me about my business and the revenues, and why I didn't have millions and millions and dollars of revenue, which to me, I think I've reached a considerable standard over time. She wasn't happy with those answers, but yeah, she majorly concentrated on my business and my revenue stream. And at the end, when once the interview was over, she asked me about that post MBA, why MBA questions, which are pretty standard.
Yes.
With Columbia, it was a very friendly interview. He basically understood my business and maybe came from the same background, so understood the struggle as well to create a brand. Like literally from a very small town in India, creating a brand at the level or trying to reach the level of Disney is something that needs a lot of courage, to say the least. So he asked about my business, post MBA, why Columbia, and that has been a pretty standard line. You must have heard it everywhere. Similar was the situation with Wharton. Wharton, yes, everything changes because it is a setup of a lot of people in a group. So that discussion part, I was very thorough with, and I have interviewed for Wharton twice because first I was waitlisted, right? So they give you a piece and you have to I think the first piece last year was basically talking about innovation in the alumni setup or getting an app or how to bring people together. So I came up with a lot of ideas. You have to write them down, and somebody else will pick up your idea. Or if your idea gets pitched, then how far can you go? And if somebody else's idea gets picked, then how far you have to go. So I can have an entire session on how that is taken, because interview it at Wharton is completely different from all other colleges. Then they have a private session with the second year senior. So they are asking about why MBA, post MBA. They were very kind and sweet. Um, Next year, when I again gave Wharton, they had another piece of line and an essay kind of, where you had to prepare. So, primarily, what I have conceptualized from these interviews, they are not looking for your unique idea, which might have been unique to a lot of people. That's not their goal. They're basically looking for your enthusiasm, your conversation skills, your you gelling with other people in a group interview, and how I think basic human characteristics, if that are well defined, and a little intelligence is what they're looking for. So yeah, that's that. If you have any specific question, you can hit me and I can answer.
No, it was really good. Thank you.
All
All
right.
the best.
Thank you, Hardik,
Thank
for
you,
being
Hardik.
our first question. So we really appreciate his time. If anyone else wants to ask a question live, just like Hardik did, please join now. There isn't really a line. I actually don't know if there's like some line that will form or what the capabilities of this are. Again, because we're experimenting here. But I will reiterate while we're taking the moment here to say that Stanford got it wrong. I'm happy to say that Wharton got it right. In my mind, they're equal. And in some cases, probably Wharton is better. In fact, in a lot of cases, Wharton is probably better. So I think you're ending up in the right place. While we're waiting for others to potentially join, again, there is the link. So that's the Facebook one. There's a YouTube one. If you want to ask Ankita a question, please do so. I have a question because Ankita, we're all about helping people at GMAT Club. We really are, myself included for that matter. Even though it might not come off to all of our moderators and some of our users who I have to frequently ban because they break our rules. We're here to help people. We're here to get people to their goals, their hopes, their dreams, everything under the sun. Which brings me to this question. And boy, do I love asking this question. I ask it during every YouTube video, more or less, unless I know the answer to it ahead of time. And our users tend to get a lot out of it too. You do, hopefully, as well. Let me ask, is there anyone in your life? Is there that lucky boyfriend or girlfriend? Or are you just so focused on your business and on your school that you are completely unattached? Tell our users yes or no, because that's the question they probably really want to know the answer to.
Why even do you think I am going to US for an MBA? So I usually tell people the first is to find somebody, and then it is for networking. So it is the number one on my list.
Let me be hopefully not the first, but if I am the first, good for me to say that a lot of guys are getting it wrong over there in India if you're still single. Just saying. That's going to be the pattern here. People getting things wrong. Stanford got it wrong. Everyone over there is getting it wrong. And I enjoy pointing out faults. I really, really do. I mean, but I try and help those faults, which, again, I invite Stanford, come on and explain your thought process to me. Love to have you. Mean it. Really, really mean it. But it doesn't look like we're getting any other questions. Ankita, I actually have one follow-up that isn't about your relationship status. But that is on the record. So good for everyone who's now going to stalk you. And I will say this, I will come down on any of our GMAT Club users like a hammer if you stalk Ankita and do something that pisses her off, because she'll reach out to me and I'm going to bring down every bit of force that I can upon you. Let's not get weird about it. You got into CBS, you got into Wharton, waitlisted at Stanford, all obviously some of the best universities in the United States, if not the world. You are one of the best, as I've said many times, qualified people I've ever met. Did you have any help crafting your essays? to help you guide or to help guide you through the application process, because you had a fair amount of success here in getting into these programs. So is that all you, which again would add to my argument that you are very intellectually bright, or did you have help?
No, so I did, and I would proudly talk about it because I think nobody, whatever you achieve in your life, you cannot do it alone. You need help, and
By the way,
I've
Kunal,
been,
we'll get to your question after this. So please stand by on the line.
yep.
Please continue. Sorry to
So
interrupt.
yes, so I worked with a consultant. I had MBA Mission as my consultant, and Jessica Strickler was my consultant. And I am so fond of her. I cannot even tell you in words. I'm really fond of her because I talked to a lot of people and a lot of consultants before closing down on her. And she literally, even as much as we've talked and you've believed in me, it's this that similar thing happened with her in that 1 hour, and it's just like you, she was just like you, and she believed in that story, and I was too confident. Like if I heard my profile myself, everybody told me that Ivy League is going to happen, don't worry about it. So I was too confident, and she kept me grounded. But when I started sending applications and when the Stanford reject happened and I was all down, that's the time she got up and she said, "Dude, are you kidding? You're going to make it." So she kept me grounded when I was overrating myself, and then she pepped me up when I was down. So she was that perfect balance, and I'm very proud of stating that fact that I took help from her. Essays are a little difficult. You got to understand, and I didn't have any experience of it, nor does anybody else. Uh, it was something that we've achieved together.
That's wonderful. And by the way, overrating yourself, how can you like? I'm trying to think how you can overrate yourself when you're already like kind of like right here up against the ceiling. Like, were you overrating yourself to the point of thinking you were God? Like, that's the only thing I can think of here
Can I
in
tell
terms of.
you one story? I
Please, and
finally,
Kunal, we are getting to you, buddy. So thank you for your patience.
yeah, sorry, thank you for your patience. So I absolutely know nobody at Stanford, okay? So, but I still wanted to talk to people, right? So somehow through some connects, I found somebody, okay? And she came on the call and I told her my story and kind of pitched it to her. And I said, "What do you think? Should I apply?" And she said, and everybody, I'm literally talking about everybody I met in my life, told me that you're a perfect fit for Stanford, and that's what they look for, and you are this person, and this holistic profile that you have, it's a perfect fit. When she came on the call, she said, "Dude, everybody is super ambitious, and when you reach there, you realize that everybody's achieved so much." So that is, I would say, thank you to her because I realized that I have to be grounded, and not that I haven't achieved, but everybody in their spectrum and in their sphere of life and wherever they are at their stage of life have achieved a hell lot more than me. So I guess a lot of people have done better.
No, that's the thing. A lot of people haven't accomplished a lot more than you in life. I've literally, so I was, again, I broke the golden rule where I say that I don't read the debriefs. I read the one you posted. I sent that to 3 different buddies of mine. Now, one of these buddies has his CFA, his Kaya, is going to make partner at my firm in the next 3 years, most likely. And he stepped back and said, "My God, I'm wasting my life." I had another buddy who said, "Is this person real? Like,
Oh,
is this?"
that's very kind of you guys. No, no, no.
So I have spoken to some of the most qualified people I can speak to, and all of them were like, "Wow, you're interviewing something special here." So don't stop selling yourself short, for the love of, geez. Anyways,
Thanks. Yes.
Kunal, welcome
Kunal,
to the stream. I'm sorry it took a couple of minutes to get to your question. The floor is
Thank
yours,
you.
buddy.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
yep,
Perfectly
perfect.
clear.
First of all, Ankita, congrats. Like pretty inspiring. So I just want to know like how do you like you go to Wharton or you go to Stanford right now if you're trying to. So how do you manage your startup right now? I mean, like because your schedule normally gets pretty competitive, in the Wharton or Stanford like. So how do you
Absolutely.
expect to just to run the startup along with, or you have planned to give it a pause, focus on studies, or how does exactly? Or being in US, the visa and all the concerns, like bunch of stuff comes into place.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are two, three things. First, that starting my business only, I had started it from US. So my base is India, but I started it in 2015 and my first licensing, as I told, was from US. So a lot of exports of ours and a lot of technology part already happens in US. So I have a base there. Secondly, to expand, we wanted to shift to US. Once this happened, I actually got selected for Columbia J-term. Since that time, I have been finding resources to hand over in India, and I have a partner. Yeah, so it's not alone. I've not done this alone, and he's going to take charge of the India part of it, and I am going to try and scale the company in US. And definitely, I'll need some time to actually get into the Wharton system. But once I am in the network, I am absolutely looking forward to scale, raise funds, and then expand the business and settle and shift the base of the company as well in US. So yeah, going to be a tough time.
John?
Wonderful.
Yep.
Kunal, is that the
Thanks,
question
Kunal.
you had?
Thanks for listening to the story and asking such a personalized question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy, for coming on and having a question. Does anyone else have any other questions? For those of you who are asking, can we do undergrad with a full ride scholarship in the USA? And neither Ankita nor I are consultants. I'm not a consultant. I work with GMAT Club and am part of GMAT Club, but that doesn't mean I am not qualified to dispense advice like a consultant. That's just not who I am. I know quote unquote best practices, but nope, out of my realm of expertise and certainly out of Ankita's most likely. So we can't answer those. But if you have questions about her story specifically, please, now's the time to ask. And I will just highlight that link again. And kid, while we're waiting, was there anything that we didn't get to during this conversation that you wanted our users to know, or something we glossed over that you wish we had hit on? Now's the time. So by all means, share.
No, even first of all, I want to tell you that. So I am from a very small town. We don't understand colleges like you guys do. And GMAT Club, for once, I had so many people who started messaging me when they knew that I was coming on your show. So
Yay!
you guys have taken so much interest understanding my story, and I can't talk about Stanford per se to anybody, and nobody will understand the value of it or my heartfelt dream and how much I felt for it. And I really literally don't talk about it to anybody. But it was you guys who brought this up, and kind of everything that I had in my mind, I've shared it with you, and you've been too kind to say all those good things. So yeah, really happy. I've shared my story a little bit that I think should be an afterthought for everybody who's going. There has to be a purpose why you want to do an MBA. It cannot just be to sound cool, because that won't take you far, because it is a long process. And anybody who says it that they just did the GRE and filled the applications and round one they were accepted, great. But for others, I would say it is a fairly longer process. You need persistence, a lot of persistence, hard work, and you have to have a purpose. You got to find your reason why you're doing what you're doing. If you have that reason, you can't go wrong. And yeah, that's my takeaway from this entire journey I've had for a year.
And
Yeah.
I can echo that to a certain extent by saying, when I have students who come to me on the GMAT Club and say, hey, I'm hitting a wall, how do you keep yourself motivated studying? The simple answer is, if your dream is to go to business school, if your dream is to hit that mark, and Stanford was your dream, if that is your dream, that's all the motivation you need. If that's not keeping you motivated enough, you may need to reevaluate. And that's just the honest truth about it. By the way, CBS was probably very, very upset and probably cried themselves to sleep at night knowing that they were turned down. I'm thinking, once this concludes, I'm thinking maybe we get this sponsored by Kleenex, tissues, something, just to help dry people's tears based on how emotional. This was a very, you were very honest, you were very open, and there were some very sad moments, but you are an inspiration, and thankfully you are going to a fantastic school that appreciates you, unlike certain other schools on the West Coast who frankly should probably, again, I reiterate, fire the AdCom who interviewed you, or fire or reprimand whoever made that call. And I'll reiterate once
swear
more,
if-
Stanford, come and call me. Come and call me.
Oh yes. If I get a call from Stanford, even I'm coming to Massachusetts to meet you. That's for sure.
We have plenty of good schools up here. Last I checked, Harvard and MIT are pretty good. So I'm sure they're upset you didn't apply to them, but
no, I'll come.
Maybe you did, but awesome. So folks, we're gonna wrap this up. To everyone who joined us here for the hour and 10. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried, tiny L on the little. A little worried that we may have a shorter than average conversation here. I am really happy that we went obviously above and beyond the hour. So couldn't be happier with that. Couldn't be happier with the person I interviewed. Ankita, you were wonderful. You were a delight, and I really hope everything works out for you at Wharton.
Yes, absolutely. Fingers crossed. Thank you, Evan. It was a pleasure. I've not smiled so much in an hour. It was just you, and you made it so smooth. So thank you so much.
You're far too kind. To everyone who watched, again, I say thank you. We are going to have a lot more debriefs in the coming weekends because I don't know what happened. We went a couple of months where we didn't do debriefs, and now we're just cramming them all in each weekend. So you're going to see a lot more of me. If you're getting tired of me, I really hope you aren't. But if you are, leave those messages in the comments, and we can start changing me up and maybe getting somebody who isn't the crown prince, president-elect, dictator emeritus of GMAT Club on these videos. So until next weekend, or whenever we do our next video, thank you, everybody, and we really appreciate you watching.
Thank you.